Hello. Welcome back. Today we have the five-part series from the Tokyo Reporter, the Sushi Roll from Hell. This is the bodiless homicide case from Saitama. So, let's get started. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes. So this is Tokyo Reporter, TokyoReporter.com, and the publisher and editor is Brett Bull. There you see holding a paper. We're going to go, if you wanted to look at parts 1 to 4, I'll put them in the link below. I did that yesterday, but today we came out with the final part. So this will be rather short and sweet. Let's get started. Yes. So, I think we can take a venture over here. This is a Tokyo Reporter, and we have their the story here. Saitama murder case with no body, part 5, the verdict. Okay, so let's take a look at that, and I'll bring you over here. Yes. So, Saitama murder case with no body, part 5, the verdict. Tokyo Reporter staff on August 29, 2024. Prosecutors had their hands full in the trial of Tatsunori Ito, who was lynched by a group of 7 inside a bar in Nishikawaguchi, Saitama Prefecture in 2016. First, one of the key suspects, Junya Motohashi, had committed self-deletion, having hung himself inside his detention cell several weeks following his arrest in 2021. So if you're wondering how do you translate Junya in English, I think that's Jeffrey, and Motohashi is Epstein. I'm just kidding. It's all right to make jokes about dead people as long as they were really, really bad. Okay, let's continue. Second, the body of Ito, that's the victim, was never found as the perpetrators dismembered and minced it in a machine following his killing. The latter problem caused years to pass between the killing and its discovery, rendering lapses in the statute of limitations on destruction and abandoning a corpse. The only charge left was murder. Now, sometimes when you get a homicide case, usually before the homicide charges are laid, it's really common to hear the initial charges will be abandoning a corpse, because that allows you to kind of, it's like a placeholder, and then you follow up with the further the charges. But in this case, that happened. By the time the case went to trial in late 2022, Kazuhara Shimada, the one-time member of the Yamaguchi-gumi criminal syndicate, was the lone target for prosecution. While he admitted to assaulting the victim, he did not confess to murder. This view was supported by a self-deletion note written by Motohashi, which said that it was the third member of Motohashi's 3 unnamed henchmen that carried out the finishing blow upon Ito. However, the 2 other henchmen went along with the prosecution, and they fingered Shimada as the culprit. To get to this point, the Tokyo Reporter they profiled various persons involved and on the key aspects of the case, including Shimada, Ito, witness testimony, and what may or may not have gone on in the bar that evening. As previously reported, the court convicted Shimada. For a look at how it ended, the editorial team brings its readership to the 5th and final installment in this series. Yes, let's go for a little bit more black and white, I guess. This is on November 20th, 2022. The Saitama District Court convicted Kazuhara Shimada of murder. There are no circumstances that cast doubt on their credibility. On December 20th, 2022, presiding judge Kenichi Nakagiri convicted Shimada of murder, handing him a 20-year prison term. From the opening of the trial, Shimada denied the charge of murder. Quote, "I admit to excessive assault, but I did not commit murder," he told the court. The defense also argued that, quote, "the testimony of other accomplices at the scene of the murder is inconsistent, making it difficult and insufficient to prove the act." The court felt otherwise. Although the testimony of the witnesses was different, The verdict recognized the testimony of Motohashi's first and second henchmen, both of whom fingered Shimada as a culprit, as reported by the Shunkan Bunshun, December 2022. The reason for the recognition was the statements of the two men matched. Quote, there are no circumstances that cast doubt on their credibility, and considering that the statements match, their credibility is recognized as high, Nakagiri said. Regarding the possibility that the two witnesses had wrongly pushed the blame onto Shimada, the court disputed that because they could have conveniently blamed a dead man, Motohashi, who has already passed away by his own hand. The two men stated that it's not Motohashi, but the defendant, who's an active member of a Yakuza gang, who's a cause for concern about retaliation, Nakagiri said. The court also pointed out that it was unnatural for Shimada to have dismembered the body if he had not been involved in the murder. That's an interesting point. Quote, they chose to kill him. With Ito's body never having been found, the proof of the act of murder itself became a point of contention. In the end, the court said the crime was confirmed based on eyewitness testimony and other evidence, according to Fuji News Network, December 29, 2022. Presiding Judge Nakagiri said, quote, the testimony of witnesses who were present at the scene of the crime, including the details of the assault and the circumstances leading up to the murder, are consistent and specific, and the defendant was found to have committed the murder. He continued, after the assault, there was a chance to talk things over, and the perpetrators could have decided not to kill Ito, but they chose to kill him, to silence him. This anti-social decision-making, which disregards the value of human life, deserves severe criticism. Afterward, Shimada exercised his right to appeal. And what's this? I think it's just another courtroom. It says on June 22nd, 2023, the Tokyo High Court denied the appeal of Kazuhara Shimada. So we'll talk about the appeal. At 1:30 p.m. on June 22nd, 2023, 16 people lined up in front of the Tokyo High Court. Later inside the courtroom, there were a few empty seats, as documented on the site note.com. Appearing slightly overweight, Shimada was seated in the seat of the defendant with a shaved head and dark skin. A white mask covered most of his face. He was wearing a black long-sleeve shirt with an English logo and camouflage shorts, as you do when you attend court in Japan. Very, very fashionable. Just before 2 p.m., presiding Judge Katsunori Ono and other judges entered the courtroom. All right, Ono said. Court will now begin. The defendant, please stand in front of the witness stand. Shimada stands in front of the witness stand. Quote, you are the defendant, Kazuhara Shimada, right? The defendant then said, yes. After that, Ono read the ruling, which was a denial of the appeal. Shimada then slightly hung his head. Quote, just sit and listen, Ono said. Quote, there was no reason for an unrelated defendant to store or dismember the body. In lodging the appeal, Shimada claimed that the first trial contained a, quote, misrepresentation of the facts as to who carried out the murder. Ono disagreed. Quote, the first henchman testified that the defendant stomped on the victim's throat with his foot, crushing it. Motohashi held the body and chanted prayers, Ono said. He went on. The second henchman testified that the defendant strangled the victim. He stomped on the victim's neck, crushing his feet. He wrapped the rope around the victim's neck and strangled him, turning his face red. The judge said that the sequencing of events and the decision to strangle the victim with the rope and hands are largely consistent. Considering the passage of time, slight differences in memory are natural, he said. Ono added that the defendant used equipment from his own company and that of his brother-in-law's company to mutilate the body. There was no reason for an unrelated defendant to store or dismember the body, Ono said, and as the first and third henchmen testified, it can be said that he used the equipment because he was the perpetrator. Ono did not recognize the testimony of the second henchman, who said that someone other than Shimada had done it. He also confirmed speculation that the third henchman was spreading rumors in a hostess club that he, in fact, had administered the finishing blow of Ito. Jeez, that's not a good thing or good time to brag about stuff. Anyways, it is clear that the second henchman is trying to avoid making statements that are detrimental to the defendant, Ono said. In the end, Ono said, the claim of misinterpretation of facts is unfounded. Shimada also claimed that the 20-year sentence was inappropriate. In his defense, he claimed that he apologized to the victim's family and provided them with 300,000 yen. I don't know how much that is. I think that's around $2,000, maybe $2,200. He also stated that it was Motohashi who called him to the scene that day and that the victim had upset his daughter. The defendant killed the victim, who had begged for forgiveness without resisting, Ono said. He killed him without resistance from the victim to silence him. The defendant committed the murder, which was brutal and merciless, and the sorrow is immeasurable. The bereaved family cannot pray for the repose of their loved one in front of the body, let alone a single piece of bone. The consequences are serious. It is acknowledged that the murder of the victim and acquaintance is serious. And at that, the judge dismissed the court. The proceedings lasted about 17 minutes. The defendant remained motionless throughout the sentence, looking slightly downward. After the courtroom was adjourned, he frowned and quickly left the courtroom. And that is the end of this final story. Going back, I will double check, but I'm sure it's not a typo. Brett's very consistent, but he really tried offering only 300,000 yen to the family and arguing to the court that, I tried to make amends. Boy, that's kind of laughable, Of course, if you don't have the money, maybe that's the most he had. But yeah, I think I would hold back because it's so insulting. Can't imagine anyone would even take that. But anyways, that's what we have now. This is the final in the series. Now, if you are watching this for the first time and are wondering what was this case all about, just go to the video that was posted just earlier. I'll put the links below. You can also read all 5 articles on TokyoReporter.com. That's TokyoReporter.com. But again, I'll have the links in the description. In the meantime, have a great week. I would kind of reconsider about sushi, Negitoro, and things like that for the next little while. Although this happened a while, but hey, it's kind of gross. And if you want, there should be more stories today on Tokyo Reporter. It has been reactivated after a quiet period. So I think you'll be happy to read more crime-related stories about that come from Japan. And really, a lot of them often don't even make the national news, let alone the overseas. But they're and we have some of the stories are original, and like the retro, some of the retro cold cases, like the BOAC stewardess in 1959. So take a look at them, either on this channel that I have dedicated for Tokyo Reporter or on Tokyo Reporter itself. So have a good day.